I set my grandmother with Debian to replace her old Mac and she never had a problem. She was in her 90s. She had blown away how you could get a system that cost $300 run better than an old iMac. She was in her 90s. Dude, I hope in my 90s I will be able to see how fast it goes, right? Okay, let's see what this guy is saying.
Look at this. Why don't more people use Linux? How much do you want to bet this is going to be the greatest article of all time? Because you know what? It's going to turn into a Jing-Yang roast of Erlich Bachman. You are fat and poor.
What? What? What is this, dude? Okay.
So ready. A couple weeks ago, I saw a tweet asking if Linux is so good, why aren't more people using it? Yeah, seen getting dunked on. And dude, even got Elon Musk to be like, well, actually, I mean, that's such a good tweet to get your boss to respond to it. Okay.
The vast majority of internet server use Linux, right? More people should get into that user space. Steam Deck run on Arch Linux. It actually works well.
Okay, his boss just responded to him, be like, yo, dog, a lot of people use it. Anyways, and it's a fair question. It's intuitively rings true until you give it a moment's consideration. Linux is even free, so what's stopping mass adoption if it's actually better? Before I read his response, one thing that I did, one of my kind of like heart changes that I had with development in 2015, it's really the reason why I'm streaming as part of this heart change. One of the heart changes is that I deploy and run things on Linux. Yet I use a Mac. I want to use the thing I deploy on. I want to get familiar with it to the point where I can reasonably go on and attempt to figure out what's happening.
That's fair. Like if you are working on Linux on your daily basis, why are you not using it as a primary, like I would say like desktop, just to learn a little bit deeper into it? This is fair. I think it's more like a curiosity aspect more than a necessity, but it's fair. I like this approach.
And so I just started learning it. I mean, that was my personal motivation. It wasn't like, free and open source software. It wasn't like all the other things people do. It was because I just wanted to simply use the thing that I use all the time in production. You felt the same? Yeah.
Like guys, why did you switch to Linux? That's a really good question. Like, why are you using Linux? I'm gonna answer this question after you answer it, chat. Because you like the challenge. So you did it for the beauty of the move. That's why you did it. I had many problems with gaming in Windows, particularly after getting an AMD GPU. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I didn't think about this one. I use Linux to learn for sure. I also donated to Microsoft to play games. I wanted to optimize my system as much as possible and very annoyed by Windows 2. I really didn't like Windows and its non-transparency. It's fun. Like, dude, it's really fun how we all have different, like perspective. I play a lot of single player game and I heard a lot of them played better on Linux and 1 year later I'm on Game 2. Nice. No more ads and poor upgrade quality on Microsoft Windows. Yes. I started like many after I bought a Steam Deck. Oh, so Steam Deck pushed you there. I went there because it's free. Okay. Yeah, but sometimes free doesn't mean better. What I read there is like some of you got pushed. Dude, some of you got pushed to something else by Microsoft itself, right? Because you are like, I can't stand Windows anymore. I'm part of this. Like you can see, like some of you guys are just like, I'm out. Some of you are just there for the adventure, dude. I wanted to go there for the fun, dude, because it's like a challenge and curiosity and stuff like that. But it's funny to see, like, most of you have been pushed away. I just got used to play on Windows that I didn't even think about switching to Linux until a month ago. So why did you switch? That was my question. I wanted to escape Microsoft, privacy rabbit hole, but I like to keep a Windows partition for a kernel anti-cheat with friends. Yeah, makes sense. My laptop does not support Windows 11, so you had to leave again. And the Steam Deck was the reason. Oh, I see a lot of you guys own a Steam Deck. So this gentleman is ThePrimeAgen. And this guy is very advanced with NVIM, NeoVim user with a credit split keyboard. Nice. Hey, what's up, Chris? I always hear that people switch to Linux because they don't like Windows anymore, but less people say that they did it because they like Linux. Personally, I switched to Linux because Elden Ring was running better on DLC map. Okay. I mean, I don't want to waste 140 USD in Windows. I have a Steam Deck too. That's part of the reason. Interesting, chat. Yeah, Elden Ring like run better on most of the machine. Do we have a crack yet? What are we talking about, dude? Linux is free. You don't need a crack. Okay, so me, I got pushed. So it's funny because none of you mentioned the ethical open source aspect. Some of you mentioned the privacy, but it's not the main reason. The main reason is like I had to get out from like Windows, like world, and jump into Linux. Like you were kind of like pushed out there. It's really interesting, guys. I just love tech and twinkering, and I'm the guy who uses custom ROM and Android. And so after I got my own PC, I started to get into Linux. So curiosity. So we have majority is leaving because of Windows. And the second part of like the Linux user are for curiosity. So curiosity will be like exactly like this gentleman here, right? Like I'm developing on Linux. I'm curious to see how it's gonna run on my desktop. It's interesting, dude. Me, I'm part of the first row. I'm like, Windows honestly was not a problem until it started to push weird stuff on my screen, until it started to have like weird updates that literally trigger me. And because I've seen what Valve was doing, I was like, okay, this is the future because a lot of people are going to be in my position. They're going to be like, I'm out. I can't stand this experience, right? Okay, so let's continue, like see like what is going to think about this.
And so it's like, I'm not a fantastic Linux user. I've never been a fantastic Linux user. I use it because I want to use it. 777 enjoyers? Yeah. In fact, I believe I asked a question about 777 on Stack Overflow at one point. Anyways, let's do this one. If exercising is so healthy.
Guys, you know what is 777? Chat, do we know? I'm sure you know, chat.
Why don't more people do it? If reading is so educational, why don't more people do it? If junk food is so bad for you, why do so many people eat it? It's a fair question. You do 2 out of 3 of those things? Do 2, yes. It's the reading part, huh? Yeah, I can't really read either. It's not a fair question. And what I mean by a fair question is that things that are good for you are extremely difficult to do. If you deploy in production, why aren't you adept with the system you use? I think that's a fair question. If you use it for every other person to play with it, but you yourself don't use it, is there a conflict of interest? But to also be fair,
I wouldn't go that far.
This
but
has an underlying kind of like implied axiom, which is that Linux is good for you. Linux should be the thing you deploy.
So this,
personally, I think that's true.
This is debatable. Is Linux good for you, dude? That's actually a good debate. Is Linux good for you? So I'm guessing that depending on your work, it could be good for you, actually.
But some people actually deploy on Windows. So I'm just saying, it sounds a bit manipulative. Do you think it sounds manipulative? Well, it's making an underlying assumption that Linux is actually the thing that should be used. Therefore, if you're not using it, it's like, oh, well, it's the thing we run all of our servers on, but I don't do it. The world is full of free invitations to self-improvement that are ignored by most people most of the time. Putting it crudely, it's easier to be fat and ignorant of the world of cheap, empty calories than it is to be fit and informed. It's hard to resist the temptation of minimal effort. I mean, that's obviously an objectively true statement. It is easier. It is 100% easier we do this all the time to ourselves. The shortcut, every last person here has had the battle with the higher will and the lower will on doing the thing you should do versus the thing that you want to do. Everybody here who works out has even had the desire not to work out as hard, knowing fully that they're deciding not to work out as hard. It's not that they're failing, they're not doing as well, right?
Dude, if I put Linux in front of my 70 years old mother, she will just die in front of me. No, don't say that, please. Listen, you will be surprised. I installed one of my old user. Let's word it this way: Linux Mint, and he's actually enjoying more than Windows. Believe it or not. I think Linux starts to be really complicated when you want to do complicated things. That's like Linux to me will be the difference between a tricycle and a bicycle. It's like if Windows will be the tricycle, you don't need to know how to bike to ride the tricycle. You sit, you do this with your little feet, and you advance. But there is limitation, right? You can't remove those wheels, right? Those tricycle wheel, you're stuck. But it's easy and it goes and no problem, everything works. On the other hand, there is Linux, which is like a bicycle, right? And the bicycle, you need to actually learn how to bike. You have this step, right? And then when you know how to do that, the amount of effort you're going to put in it and whatever you want to go through is related to what you can do already with a bicycle. So maybe the analogy is not the best, but you get the idea, right? I put Linux for my 70-year-old parents. They just didn't notice. My father, one icon, Firefox. That's true. I respect that. Hyperland kids with their family want to use their PC and print something. Yeah, that's true too, dude. That's true. I switched my retired mother and father laptops to Linux. No more trip to fix them, anyone. That's true too. Like, depending if you install Debian or Mint, just make sure their big upgrade goes well. Because this is where, from time to time, you're going to have to your finger crossed. Because this can happen still. Like, it happened on server, production server, you want to upgrade, everything breaks. It happens too. But yeah, normally, like, they should be like solid. So actually, I fibbed a little bit. I did put Linux in front of my 70-year-old mother because I bought her a Chromebook. Here we go, Cupidix. Welcome to the Linux gang. I know you're not part of the Linux crew there already, but now you are one of us, dude. I do agree that for most of the people, like, who are not gamer, it wouldn't be a problem at all. But you see, like, this approach, like he's mentioning here, like, it's easier to be fat and ignorant in a world of cheap, empty calories than it is to be fit and informed. Yeah.
I mean, this is an objectively true statement in of itself. It's relating it to Linux that I think is a little difficult. I'm having a hard time seeing the bridge to Linux.
Yeah.
Effort equals faster.
So I agree with him. Like, it's like, this is true if you take it out of the context.
Well, it doesn't even equal faster. Sometimes it is slower. Doing the minimal effort can be slower because every single day you're getting interrupted for, say, like 30 seconds because you do the minimal thing as opposed to taking 2 hours to make it just work. And so then you pay that cost over and over again because it is faster in the short term, but it's not faster in the long term, right?
So even what he says there is disputable, right? It's literally case per case, right? Depending on what you do on your computer. But I agree, like, the bridge between the argument itself and Linux and the analogy can go both ways.
Linux isn't minimal effort. Facts. It's an operating system that demands more of you than does the commercial offerings from Microsoft and Apple. Thus, it serves as a dojo for understanding computers better. You will walk away with better understanding of an operating system. I think we all agree that you can use Windows and virtually never know what a file is.
Oh, this is so true. Chad, this is so true. Bro, I've ever met students in informatics, like computer technology, who had no idea how Windows was actually working. They had no idea. So they were learning the language and they were good at it, but they had no idea how, for example, like, change a driver on Windows or trying to understand how it boots. Like, they will know the language itself, but they will know nothing about the computer. I don't know if it makes sense, but I've seen that. Like, this is true. Like, this is actually true, chat. And some of you guys are going to be like, Air Max, you are wrong, but this is true, dude. Like, you will be amazed on how, like, there is a big gap between even, like, people who say they are engineer in computer, because it's not the same, obviously. Like, learning a language has nothing to do with computer when you really think about it. Like, it has to do, but, like, you could learn one without learning another. But I think, like, Linux in a way is really pushing you to learn there. Like, it puts you in a position where you have to do it. So this, I agree, dude.
I think that's pretty fair. With a sensei who keeps demanding you figure out problems on your own in order to learn and level up. Like, my kids don't even know what files really are. My oldest is starting to understand that there's files, but you meet, like, a lot of 15, 16, 17-year-olds that actually don't even know what a file or a directory is. Like, that, those things don't even have words. Right?
But
like,
they don't need to, right?
It does teach you a lot. Everything is fine. I know you want that to be true. But in kids' head, there is no such thing as a file. Files don't even exist. Who's the audience for this article? People who know who DHH is? He's preaching to the choir.
Like if you take your kid as an example,
literally his
like
blog. A blog is preaching to the choir. A blog is taking your thoughts and putting it out there for people to read. Now, I totally understand why most computer users aren't interested in intellectual workout when all they want to do is browse the web or use an app. Also fair. I would never, ever, for any reason, set my mom up to use Linux. It would be an actual... I would have a mental illness if I said, you know what, Mom? You need to use Linux because it is the best way to use the computer, right? Like, my mom just doesn't need that. I don't need that.
oh, but this is okay. So this is interesting, chat. You see, his approach is funny because he's saying like she should use Linux because Linux is better. He doesn't see the operating system as a commodity. Oh, how do you say this word, chat? Say, I'm tired, chat. Commodity. Commodity?
Commodity.
A raw material or primary agricultural product that can be bought and sold. Yeah, he doesn't see it as a commodity, right? He sees it as a way of doing things, which is different. For me, Linux is a commodity. It's a commodity to give to someone else to, I would say, like, alleviate some of the complexity related to Windows. Okay, because whether you like it or not, if you have a really like basic usage of the computer, nowadays, Linux is easier. It's just easier, chat. It's easier to run than Windows. There is less intrusive stuff which can distract an old user to do what he wants to do. It's more basics. Man, I installed Microsoft 11. That's horrible, chat. Like, you go into Windows 11, sorry, not Microsoft 11. Windows 11, you lose your mind. Like, you open the thing at the bottom, there is like pop-up, news, whatever. Like, it's not a computer anymore, it's something else. Here, you go on Linux, it's straight. Browser, click, boot, upgrade when you want to upgrade, go back, no virus, nothing, it works. You see, like, I would give it to my parents more as a commodity rather than telling them it's a way of using a computer. Like, I don't care if there is a way or not a way. I would say, like, use Linux because it's easier for everyone.
And so not everybody needs to use Linux. And that's completely fair. They're not looking to become a black belt in computing fundamentals. But programmers are different, or ought to be different. Ooh, there's an implied morality here. It's kind of an interesting thing, which is, and this is a very huge, I think, contention in our modern world right now, which is, what is better, to deliver an app as fast as possible or to write something well?
It's interesting to see his programmer approach, right? I guess this guy is a programmer. I don't know him. You mentioned, I think Temet mentioned like he was really good with NeoVim, so I'm guessing he's a programmer. Yeah, let's listen to his perspective.
Very hard to do them obviously at the same time. And I think a lot of us want to write it well, but we're often compelled by money or time to get it out quick. And you can see this with older houses. Houses built in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, though the layout often is like they were taking acid, the houses generally are built better because there was more concern of craft than speed during those years. They were probably taking acid. Yeah, it's true.
No, like it's more complicated than that, dude. Like if you take the analogy of the house, I do believe it's more complicated than that. Obviously, like the crafting was better at the time, but it was not because they wanted to make better. It was because the constraints were different, right? Like our world is changing. Like we are going like into the Walmartization of everything we do. So it's more cheaper. This is the direction we are going. At least this is my vision. So when you talk about a house now, they rather build like 10 cheap houses rather than good one because they make more money out of it by doing it this way and because this is what everybody is doing. If they want to make a well-crafted house, they wouldn't be able to sell it anymore. There is no big value added into doing something well-crafted versus doing more of them. Yeah, exactly. The old quality over quantity conundrum, exactly. Like right now, we are in a world where quantity is key. That's the world we are living in. Economies of scales, etc., etc. So I don't see how we could apply it in a programmer world.
But also at houses in the 30s and 40s. Yeah, typically houses in the 30s and 40s a little bit more interesting because they're getting old enough that, you know, sometimes you need like foundational help and all that. You know, as houses get older, they can they need help. Our house is 113 years old and can withstand a nuclear blast. Yeah, but you'd probably have had a lot of things go into it. You probably also had tube electronics at one point.
He's right.
As Thor said,
Yo,
nobody
Cyber
cares
Turkey.
if it has 10K in if statements as far as it gets the job done. Yes, the problem is we, the consumer, are concerned about results. We, the builder, are concerned about the quality. And so it gets into this really weird spot. Computers are by far the weirdest place. You truly don't care. I know people are saying I care. You truly don't care when it comes to the consumer side. You want Twitter to work. Does it matter that Twitter
he's right about
is
that. That's why there is
lasers?
I think that's why there is a gap between like the house analogy and Twitter and like all the program in general, right? Because the impact is going to be so different, and you wouldn't really care what is behind the scene compared to a house, right? But I get his point.
Inside of some crazy light-based programming language, or does it matter that it's written in PHP? You wouldn't care. You'd have no actual care at all how it's done, long as it was consistent and always worked. And so as a consumer, we are just not caring. But as a producer, we definitely care. And that it becomes this really difficult. Fucking lasers, man, right? It becomes really difficult because we're on both sides. PHP is legit. No hate there. Yeah, I mean, I think I've already talked about my past with PHP. They're like firefighters. Fitness isn't the purpose of firefighting, but it's a prerequisite. You are a better firefighter when you have stamina and strength to carry people out of a burning building on your shoulders than if you do not. So most firefighters work to be fit in order to serve that mission. This is actually a pretty interesting analogy. I like it in the sense that to become a good programmer, the more you know of fundamentals, the ability to go further down the stack, the more you just simply understand, the faster you can move even in the simple things. And that takes time, effort, and difficulty.
And this is fair.
But it can yield better output. Yeah, I understand that most firefighters just take medical calls. That is because whenever there is something that's saying,
Dude, this argument of the guy. Firefighters, they are not even on the field. They just answer the phone. Bro. Broski. He's not wrong, but like... Dude. I think this is a good one, chat. Nobody said it in chat when I was reading it. Nobody said it in my chat. What's going on, dude? I think we are losing our peps there.
Has a heart attack and the doors are locked. There's certain ways in which they need to be able to break things in and all that. I get that firefighters aren't responding to fires all the time. They actually do a lot of services. Car wrecks typically have firefighters because you have to be able to get people out of cars and all that. But nonetheless, they still have to be in shape. Just because we build CRUD apps responding to medical calls doesn't mean we don't also have complex things in which we're trying to build. That's why I love to see more developers take another look at Linux, such that they may develop better proficiency in the basic katas of the internet, such that they aren't scared to connect a computer to the internet without the cover of a cloud. Interesting. Besides, if you're able to figure out how to set up modern build pipeline for JavaScript, or even correctly configured IAM for AWS, you already have...
Wait. You don't say JavaScript, you say JavaScript. This is the correct way to say it in English? Bro, I'm learning so much. Chat, I'm learning so much.
JavaScript.
Oh no, it's a JavaScript.
JavaScript.
So why are you saying JavaScript? Man, if someone make another comment of the way I pronounce word, I'm gonna be upset.
All the stamina you need for the Linux journey. That is such a good take. If you can do a JavaScript build pipeline...
Oh, now he's saying JavaScript. Okay.
Like, we're not talking about, I go like vite init and I create a new basic template. We're talking about a larger project in which has custom build points and all of that. We're not talking about the easy stuff, right? Think about giving it another try. Not because it's easy, because it's worth it. I would say this is the exact same thing when it comes to data structures, when it comes to algorithms, learning about how HTTP works, building your own custom, network protocol. Not because you should do that because it's somehow going to benefit you at your job, but you should do that because you will understand how the internet protocols work. When you build something in binary, you understand things at a more fundamental level. You understand how JSON actually even works. How do you send an object across a wire? Some people are completely mystified, probably even in this chat. Type 1 in this chat if you are mystified by the process of sending JSON across the wire. I bet you there's at least quite a few people that just don't know how, and they don't understand why. Would you like a brief lesson in how it works? Let's just say that you have...
No. We don't want that. Okay, so I think I don't want the lesson on TCP and whatever. Like,
see if you have a good experience, and then maybe you have a horrible experience. And the reason why you have a horrible experience is because you have no experience at it. And
Temet, thank you very much for the $10 donation. JavaScript. Was it the mustache accident, brother? Thank you very much for the $10, dude. Much, much appreciated. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. The mustache accident. Listen, I'm watching some of this video, and sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm trying to learn. Like, did I make a mistake when I was speaking in English and stuff, whatever? Because some of the comments on my videos are like, wow, we can't even understand a word of your English. Like, you suck. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, back in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to improve my English a little bit because some of those guys are still not happy, right?
you go and you look at how libraries do it and how other people.
Thanks a lot,
do it,
Temet.
Oh, wow. Oh, that makes total sense. I had this problem. Now I understand how they got here. It's the same thing with just using Linux. Linux is just vastly different than using something else. You're going to install Docker, and then Docker, when you try to run it, it's going to go, it doesn't work. And you're going to go, why doesn't it work? Because you need to create a Docker user group for Docker to be able to do these things. Okay, I'm going to create a user group. It still doesn't work because your user is not in the user group. And you're going to have to just do that. You're going to have to execute those two commands you always have to execute.
Yeah, but did you launch the Docker socket linked to the Docker service? This is my question, Chad. But if you don't know how it works, that's a bit complicated. So I agree with him. I agree with the fact that in every type of like endeavor you are on, trying to learn as much as vertically is important, right? Because he's going back to this point. But this analogy, even if I like it because I love Linux, I think it's going too far. It's way harder than that. Like this part here. The world is full of free invitation to self-improvement that are ignored by most people most of the time. Even if it's true, I think it doesn't mean that Linux is good for you. For example, if you were a programmer, it could be good for you. It could be good for you. But for anybody else, I'm not sure it's good for you. You know what I mean? Because here there is directly like a link between exercising is healthy. Like it has been proved like scientifically that if you exercise more, you're going to become more healthy, right? Same with the junk food. Obviously, like reading is going to help your education. Like there is other way to learning, but for the last like 25 centuries, like reading is kind of important, I would say. So, you're not reinventing the wheel here. But the real question is like, is really Linux beneficial for you? I don't know. That's another debate, right?
When installing Docker, you just need to know why they happen. And it's good. It's good for you. It helps you become better at computers and faster and nicer.
Yes, this is true. This I agree.
You get things at a more fundamental level. And the more you get things at a more fundamental level, the better life typically is for a programmer. Right? I mean, look at this.
Yeah, okay. So for a programmer, I would say yes, it might help. But you could be like in a world where you are just at the top of the stack and you don't need to go deep and you don't really need Linux. Like you don't need to run a desktop because what I would say on top of that is like running a desktop on Linux is still like really far from running server. So I have a little experience of running server on Linux. I still had to learn a lot when switching to the desktop. There is things obviously that stays the same because it's still Linux, but the desktop is a total different world. So I'm originally from New York City. It will take a much, much worse accent to make you unintelligible for me. Thanks, man. Your English is fine. Thank you very much.
This person's obviously done it enough times that just knows it right off the rip. Anyways.
He put the link there, dude. That's fun. I'm really thinking we're going to do more like server type of content soon.
I really like this article. I really do like this article. Because I think for a long time I was kind of scared about Linux. When I was deploying my first ever startup, it was a Linux machine. It was a LAMP stack. And I always felt so confused using it. Now it feels like the terminal just feels like the natural place I should be.
Yeah, I agree with that too, dude. I agree. I was also scared about the terminal like years ago. But then when you go into it, you realize like this is the only way. Like this is the only way, chat. Depending on what you do on your machine, this is the only way is the terminal. And I'm not a programmer, like I'm nobody, right?
Is the ThePrimeAgen.
Okay. So guys, go see this gentleman, the Prime Time, the PrimeAgen. I think he has this Twitch too. So, yeah. That was fun. That was fun, huh, chat? I liked it, dude. I liked it. Maybe we're gonna do a video about it.